Hello, welcome back. It is week 31 here on Out on That Line. I'm Geoff with my co-host, as always, Alex. How we doing this week?
Feeling a little bit like an Oreo cookie because this episode, Geoff, is double stuffed.
Oh, baby, it is. Actually, I think people are going to enjoy this first segment, but when you're saying double stuffed, it truly is, because not only are we going to be talking about the EP from Shakey Graves, Roll the Bones, also, it is finally time for Dua Lipa in Future Nostalgia. Last year's album, we've been kind of talking about doing it for quite a while now, and I don't know why this week was what we decided, but I think we had same brain syndrome last week when we were deciding what to do, and we landed on this one, and I can't wait to get into it. That's going to be at the end of the show, so we'll have to save our excitement for then. But first, I want to talk about this new Nirvana song, and I say Nirvana with air quotes, for those listening at home, can't see what I'm doing, but it is very strange because they took a computer program, fed through a bunch of Nirvana songs. They removed the vocals and all the extraneous stuff, just fed through basically the bass lines and the guitar, and I think the drums maybe, but all separately, so that they came up with this. The computer came up with this algorithm of how Nirvana songs work. And then they got this guy from a Nirvana tribute band to sing. And they put together this fake Nirvana song that's basically all computer generated. And my goodness, it was very weird, very accurate, most of all scary.
That's the thing. You're exactly right. It was all three of those things. You listen to it and you're prepared to be like, I'll be able to tell the difference. I'm a real Nirvana fan. And then the further it goes, you're like, oh my God. You said earlier, put it on In Utero. It fits right in there perfectly. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of two minds of it, because on the one hand, it kind of it makes you aware of music's mortality, right? Mm-hmm. Music is just patterns, basically. So theoretically, a computer could lock into that and predict that and end up writing this song. Mm-hmm. And you can either look at it like, well, does that destroy the magic of art? Or is it just kind of bringing you closer to it with the power of technology, right? I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
I really don't know how to feel. I think I land more on the side of I don't like it. Yeah. I really don't like it. Yeah. Not because necessarily I think it ruins music or anything like that. It's just scary that somebody thought of faking our Nirvana song and it came out that accurately. It's one thing to do a parody song. It's one thing to be like Weird Al and do the same song, but just change the lyrics and make it funny. It's one thing to do that to a song, but to make up an entirely new song in the style of an artist and have it sound so accurate is frightening, to say the very least, for me.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know how ethical or unethical it is. I mean, I guess in the case of actors in the Star Wars movies where they'll do the CGI Peter Cushing or the CGI Carrie Fisher, mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, ugh, actors are writing into their contracts that long after they're gone, you'll be able to do this. Yeah. So it does kind of feel violating a little bit. And again, I didn't write any of Nirvana's shit, but just as a Nirvana mm-hmm. fan to listen to it, it feels weirdly violating that a computer was able to replicate it that accurately.
Yeah.
And you want to go, yeah, but there's no human soul in that. It's like, well, there's a human being singing it. Mm-hmm. Let's enjoy that while it lasts, because once they find a way how to replace human vocalists.
Yeah. And I would imagine that they're close to doing that anyway. I can't imagine that technology doesn't already exist in some form or fashion. They just have to figure out how to use it in that way.
You can make them sound like whatever you want. I mean, all these soundboards where they'll do Ralph Wiggum with Trump's voice and AI Trump mm-hmm. voice. I'm militia. It's not even that. It's a little more seamless than that, honestly. Yeah. You would think it would be robot, and you'd be able to tell. There are little moments that strain credulity, but other than that, these things can get it completely fucking down. Again, by training a computer program. Yeah. So you might be able to customize your, lead singer in a band.
Yeah, God, what a scary thought. So I was on Reddit the other day, and for some reason, I really, again, technology is fucked, man. The way that it just completely reads everything that you do, basically reads my thoughts, I think, at this point. So I'm on Reddit after having listened to this song and being like, this is weird that a computer was able to generate this and have it be so scary accurate. And I'm doom scrolling on Reddit because it seems like all the stuff that pops up for me are always the questions like, oh, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you? And, people have a thread of the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Or like, what's they'll ask paramedics, what's the worst injury you've ever seen? And so like, it's just stuff that's just depressing to read. And there was a thread where it was like, what's the scariest fact you know? And somebody said, if folks aren't familiar with the Turing test, it's going to have to do with that. So the Turing test is if an AI can fool you into believing that it's a real human, that it's not AI, then it passed the Turing test. So somebody said, if an AI is smart enough to pass the Turing test, it's also smart enough to fail it on purpose. And that blew my mind because they could be among us. And that's like one of the scariest things on the planet to me. Sharks and AI are two of the two things that just will scare the pants right off me. Like, I don't like it. I don't like the thought of it. And you can't trust anything nowadays. And that just sealed it for me.
You've seen Ex Machina, right?
That movie gave me some of the most severe trust issues I've ever experienced.
Dude, I saw that on a double bill with Gone Girl. You think you got trust issues?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's just, did you know what the movies entailed when you did it? Did you do that on purpose?
Just a roll of the dice. Free night in Boston. No one was around. I'm like, fuck it. I'll go see 2 movies.
Oh my God. They were showing those in theaters?
Yeah, absolutely. When I lived in Boston.
Motherfucker. Why?
Yeah. And now I'm afraid of a sexy robot seducing me and then stabbing me in the chest. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, and if folks haven't seen that movie, like, I'm telling you, if you are as worried about AI as I am, and I was worried about it before that movie, I think I watched that movie with Mitch, and both of us came out of that like, we need to just end all robots. Like, it doesn't matter if they like do machine learning or not. If they're a robot, we need to stop right now because it is gone too far already. We cannot have that happen. And who knows if it already is. We don't know.
We need to head to Matt Reno's and fortify our position. Get ready for Skynet.
God. Oh, I can't think of a place I'd feel less safe.
He will lead us, Geoff, to a new age.
Oh, God. At least, I mean, I feel like at least our time in the world dominated by robots and AI, at least our time would be short. Like, we wouldn't have to deal with it for very long.
And it's going to be filled with a guy's pants falling down. Like, you got to spend your last days somehow. Make it a Reno day.
getting choked out by a robot. All right.
People don't know who Matt Reno is, but let me tell you, this is the funniest shit ever for you guys.
He will be on the pod someday.
Oh, he will be on the pod.
But so you know what? That he might be the perfect example of why AI is probably already among us. Because how does a human being do the things he does and have survived this long?
You raise an excellent point. And if you were to tell me that he is in his basement plugged in behind his head right now, while the holograms of his wife and child are powered down and the complex is just devising energy for him, just feeding him. He's plotting his next moves in binary, code after code after code.
Yeah,
it honestly wouldn't shock me.
It's crazy that a machine can be as far advanced as to pass as, at least somewhat of a human like Matt Reno and still not have found the programming to keep more than one set of guitar strings on hand at a time.
That feels like a deliberate move on the part of the AI. Torture us a little bit.
Just slowly, piece by piece, drive us insane.
It's brilliant.
That's that. Yeah. Oh man, it makes too much sense. I'm scared. I'm on edge now. So
I don't like this.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. Why don't we move on to a little Shakey Graves, fellow Austin boy, clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. for those that are fans of Friday Night Lights, he did play the Swede.
He sure did.
The paramour of one Julie Taylor, also one of the worst characters on that show of all time. And he turned out to be a huge piece of shit. So I guess it worked out.
Yeah. Well, good thing he had that musical career to fall back on.
Yes. A very successful musical career. Like the guy is, you don't really expect somebody that played just a bit part on a show like Friday Night Lights to be as talented as he is. And I haven't listened to as much of him as I used to, but that, and then the War Came album is top to bottom a pretty incredible experience. Really, folks are probably familiar with Dearly Departed, the song he did with, was it Esme Patterson?
Esme Patterson. Yep.
Yeah. She's probably the most classic indie girl voice you've ever heard in your life. But on that song, it works. It's great.
Yeah. In Nashville, they call her the prototype.
Really?
No, I made that up, but that sounds accurate, doesn't it?
You could have absolutely played that off, and I would have gone through my life and been like, "Oh man, Esme, it's nice to meet you. I heard they call you the prototype." It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, no, sorry, I sold that too good.
I guess that's why you're the award-winning actor, and I'm just a podcast host.
All my awards are laminated. But at any rate. Yeah, no, it's this EP was interesting. It was, I mean, not that like Shakey Graves does that Blackberry Smoke, blow the doors off, multi-instrumental tour de force kind of rock.
Yeah.
It's the same sensibility, but not quite so produced as Blackberry Smoke. It's very stomp and haul or Americana. And this is definitely that, but it even feels like more pulled back from that. To like points when you're listening to it, you're like, I don't know if anyone's playing an instrument. They're literally just like stomping and hitting an empty spackle bucket. Like, but it sounds fucking amazing. It invokes this really weird, isolated, gothic, timeless swamp scenario that I really love. So my only complaint is it was too short.
Yes, and well, luckily for us, he's released a whole album. So when we decided to do the EP, he had only released this little 4-song snippet called "Roll the Bones." And now he's released the full album called Roll the Bones X, right? Is the name of it. So it's like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
Again, I think it's a bunch of like B-sides and live tracks and stuff like that. Just he did a cut in grass, but even like way looser and just was like, fuck it, here's 3 versions of, whatever. And here's a live recording and here's a song you've never heard before. Like it was, I looked at it and I was like, Jesus Christ. It looked like a random playlist someone made.
He's had some time on his hands, I assume.
I guess.
I imagine that's why this one got released. But I really liked the title track from this EP. The song "Roll the Bones" was just like classic, weird Shakey Graves. So he's a really, really phenomenal guitar player. Whether he's playing like a fully electrified version of a song, or he's just playing acoustic. But you're right; it is very much that like stomp and holler kind of Americana for the most part. And I think he actually used to have like an empty suitcase on stage, and that was his percussion. Is he just like kicked that for his percussion?
It wouldn't shock me. And again, what he's able to do with it, it's like, we'll get him out of the way early this week. It's like Zappa and the bicycle. Like he went on Ed Sullivan and played bicycle spokes musically. I mean, I love that kind of stuff when you can find a way to incorporate something like that and it's not hokey and it doesn't suck and it's not a gimmick. Yeah. It's just giving you the sound you envisioned. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I absolutely get behind that. And also probably saves a lot of money on touring.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have a very big stage setup for that. So I think that's also part of the reason he's very like a DIY kind of musician, I think, overall.
Yeah.
But the songs all of them were good. But I really liked Roll the Bones. And obviously I was a fan of I'm on Fire, a cover by a little known artist named Bruce Springsteen. And everybody and their brother has covered this song. Like this is probably, of all the Bruce Springsteen songs, it's probably Atlantic City and I'm on Fire of the ones that are the most covered songs, bar none. And I wouldn't say this is my favorite cover that I've heard. I think the White Buffalo does a really, really excellent cover of that song. If you haven't heard that one, that's one people should definitely check out. But I really think that Shakey Graves is just such a good musician that there's nothing. I don't think I've heard a song where I'm like, I don't really like this one. Like there's some that I really, really like and will go back to over and over again. And some I'll only listen if I'm listening to the whole album. But he's just like so consistently weird and good. It's always just seems to be interesting, which is, I think there's not a ton of artists you can say that about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I guess to a different extent, I'm very pro Waxahachie.
Mm-hmm.
And Waxahachie definitely, I think, doesn't necessarily, Katie Crutchfeld is her name, doesn't necessarily skew quite as weird as Shakey Graves, but has that same DIY aesthetic, even now, even four or five albums in. Really maintains that kind of bedroom production sensibility to it, where the music's the thing. You're not adding in a bunch of like, I randomly thought of the Miley Cyrus album we covered, Plastic Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the unnecessary production flourishes in it where I'm like, why? Why did you add the weird bells that stick out like rusty cannons on a sunken ship? So in that way, it's really, and especially when it's paired with this Dua Lipa album, listening to the Shakey Graves EP was a really nice contrast, just strip back.
Yeah. And funny you brought up Waxahachie, because have you heard her cover that she just released of another Bruce Springsteen song, Streets of Philadelphia?
No, I haven't heard that one yet.
Well, I would recommend listening to that because that is an excellent song. And I mean, I know I bang the Bruce Springsteen drum all the time, and I always will. And he is, I recently not as excited about the Boss as an entity as I used to be. But certainly his music I'm never going to get sick of. And Streets of Philadelphia is a really excellent song. When he did it, she kicked ass on that cover, man.
Oh,
I think
I'm
you're
sure.
gonna like it. Yeah, she put that little Waxahachie magic all over it.
I wish she would cover that shitty wrestler song that he did.
Oh God, that song was bad.
You ever see a scarecrow punching at weeds?
God, that was, I mean, he was just trying to get back to the Ghost of Tom Joad era. And that was a great album, but goddamn, that song was bad. I remember when that came out and everybody's like, oh man, you love Bruce Springsteen. Have you heard this new song? I was like, yes, I have, and stop talking about it right now.
Oh, it's fucking awful. You talk about feeling violated. It's like, where's the trust, Bruce? You broke the circle of trust.
Yeah, it even made me not like that movie.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
that movie's depressing enough already.
Yeah, that might have been Mickey Rourke that made me not like that movie. But he's one of those ones that everybody always like pumps the tires of, and I'm like, he's okay, I guess.
He's fine.
Yeah. It's like I wouldn't, the fact that he'd gone so long without making a big movie, I think was why that was such a big deal.
Yeah.
I was just like, there's tons of people that are way better than him, that have had way bigger comebacks. Like, why are we making such a big deal about this one? I didn't get it.
Nah, me either.
Yeah, I was just soured by that Bruce song. But absolutely go check out, now get back to what we were talking about. Absolutely go check out that Shakey Graves EP called Roll the Bones. Also check out the full album. I haven't listened to the full album yet, so I can't give my stamp of approval on whether it's great or not. I would imagine it's pretty good, especially if it's got a bunch of his older songs and things like that. He's never disappointed me before, so I can't imagine he will this time. But maybe we'll talk about, touch on that sometime down the road. I don't know if we'll do that full album since we just talked about the EP here. But definitely go check that out. I really enjoyed those 4 songs. I think you will too. And now, I think it's time for the main event. Dua Lipa, Future Nostalgia. And boy, what a ride this was.
You ain't just whistling how you do down there, Geoff. I remember the first time I listened to this, back when it first came out. It kind of snuck past me. I think I must have put it on while I was working out or something. I'm just like, I need something upbeat. And I'm browsing through the pop, and I'm like, okay, Dua Lipa, fine. And I remember being like, okay, this panned out. I lucked out. This is pretty good. But again, didn't like really sit with it as we do in preparation for this podcast. So remedying that, what an experience. This is a fucking fun ass pop album. And I love that she tried to center it around a concept, and it worked. Oh,
it worked like gangbusters, man. This whole like 70s disco and like 80s pop kind of thing that she did, you just could hear it, you could feel it the same way The Weeknd did, on why can't I remember the name of that album that we did?
After Hours.
After Hours. The way that he did on that album, where you just like almost get transported to a different time.
The synth wave, the dark wave stuff that he did.
Really, really incredible stuff that she did on this album. Really, really incredible. And I think she, the first, like the big single that I think everybody's heard at this point, Don't Start Now. She had like this dance that she did that she got like torn apart online for, because she like wasn't a great dance. She didn't look that great when she was dancing. She didn't have a lot of rhythm. She got to work after that and like really was like, I'm going to prove all these people wrong. And I think that's the kind of attitude that makes this album so successful, is because she's got that kind of like, fuck you bone in her body. She's like, I'm going to make the best album you've ever heard. I'm going to make the best album of the year, and you're not going to tell me nothing. And I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, and what's so cool about that is she is 100% motivated, I think, to go even further. It's not even necessarily like, oh, I fell short and everybody's judging me, and now for them, I need to prove that I can do this. Yeah. I think she probably got out there and was like, you know what? I know I can do better. So fuck it, I'm going to blow the doors off it this time. Fuck what anyone's expecting. I'm just going to do this because I know I can do better. And she just does it.
Oh yeah. So I don't think there was a moment on this album where I was just like, I don't like this. I don't think there was a single moment on this album where I was like, I was not enjoying what was going on, because it's just like, I realized that pop music like this, like you could make the argument that it's basically like made in a lab. They have their formulas, like you said earlier about the computer nirvana. Music is patterns. There's a way that things are structured. There's a way that things are done that makes it appealing to the ear, makes it so that you want to go back and listen to it again because it's gotten stuck in your head. And, familiarity sometimes breeds contempt, but also can breed, favorable feelings. And I think that's what happens with this. It's so perfectly crafted, so perfectly produced throughout the whole thing, that as you're sitting there listening to the songs, that it's not, I wouldn't say predictable, but everything feels like it fits where it should. When she goes to the next part of a song, when she goes from a bridge into a chorus or a verse into a bridge, it feels correct. It doesn't feel like she's ever jolting you out of anything. It's just all so perfectly put together that I think this album, among probably some others, but this album is one that other albums in pop music should be judged by. Like, if you're not going to get to this standard, why are you bothering?
Right. And I mean, the production, like you said, is completely seamless, super sleek. There are literally no bells and whistles on this album. Like, again, I go back to Plastic Hearts, an album I really liked. But one thing I've noticed the more I've listened to it is just these unnatural, what's that fucking instrument? It's like an American pianophone or something like that. Yeah. It's just got all the whiz bang stuff on it. Woo, ding, ding, ding. Like,
yep.
You throw that shit into Miley Cyrus songs, and I'm like, this song was fine before you showed up. Unnecessary effects. Dua Lipa, there is none of that. This thing is just like an ice luge, start to finish.
Oh yeah.
And what's cool about this kind of pop is it's, again, not overly complicated, but it's not brainless. So, like, the themes and the lyrics are not just like, baby, I want to bop with you till the morning, baby. Oh, baby, baby. She, like, picks actual social topics to talk about because she herself is a very socially conscious person.
Yeah.
So she works that in, and it makes pop with a brain.
Yeah. It's really, really good. So why don't we get started? And, we did the usual thing here. This was probably the toughest one that we've had so far, where I only picked 3 songs, because honestly, like we were saying, it is good top to bottom. So we picked our 6 songs that we're going to focus on, but do not think for a second that means the other songs that we don't necessarily dive way into are worse than these. This album from top to bottom is just solid, just good. So we start with Future Nostalgia, one of your picks. So why don't you let me know what gets you most excited about this one?
Again, I'm a big fan of strong lead-ins and strong lead outs on an album. So I love the way that this sets the stage for the concept, because she had said this is everything on the album has to do with nostalgia of some kind. Want that to be the running theme. So obviously we have the song Future Nostalgia, which is essentially her saying exactly what we were just saying, which is, you've never heard anything like I'm going to do. And again, you may listen to this and be like, I've heard a bunch of stuff like this.
Yeah.
But I would argue, no, you haven't, because she's not reinventing the wheel. She's just taking the best of what pop music can be. Like we said, she's like, I can do better than the bare minimum. So Future Nostalgia, I'm going to make you nostalgic for something that you haven't even seen yet. And she's got these lines that talk about, like, you've never dealt with an alpha. And it's not her disrespecting all of her female forebears. It's just her saying, you know, you really and truly aren't used to people who come out of the blue like this and give you what I'm about to give you. So in terms of that, I love the way that it sets the stage for the entire album.
Yeah. And I like it because it's always nice when I get a shout out in a song, you know, and she said specifically, I know you like this beat because Geoff's been doing the damn thing. And I didn't realize that she was listening to the podcast. I didn't know that. She hasn't reached out. You know, she's just, I think, a loyal listener. Maybe she thinks I'm really busy, doesn't want to bother me. I can promise you, Dua Lipa, that's not the case. If you want to reach out, the DMs are open. And, you know, whatever questions you may have, I realize that you probably look up to podcasters that, you know, were very important in your life. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions for you. It'd be fine. So that was really nice of her to do for me. I really appreciate that. I'm not a whore for recognition by any means, but I certainly appreciate it when I get it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you're just a regular whore, but, so those same lyrics, and like, again, this is what I love about this song. You want a timeless song. I want to change the game. Like Modern Architecture, John Lautner coming your way. John Lautner was an architect who kind of moved away from Art Deco. I just hit my mic.
Oh boy. Mike's on the move.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. He moved away from the Art Deco style that was very popular at the time and ended up creating this very iconic, but at the same time, very stripped down vision that became the thing that everybody thereafter started to emulate. So she's drawing that comparison. And then I know you like this beat because Geoff's been doing the damn thing, her producer, Geoff, something or other. Again, just setting the stage for future nostalgia. You're nostalgic for something that hasn't existed until this point. But here I am. You're welcome.
Yeah. It's just, it's really, really excellent album opener. And I think that's something that we harp on this podcast is the structure of an album, I think, is as important as the collection of songs on it. I think how you put those together is very, very important, because if you put a song like this, well, I guess I can't really say that because this song in the middle would still be kick-ass, wouldn't really make a difference on this particular album. But, you know, there's a lot of albums that if the sequencing isn't right, you know, if you're not trying to tell a story, maybe not necessarily all the songs are supposed to be connected story-wise, or even that it's supposed to be a concept, but if you don't at least get the kind of emotional waves to be smooth as you're going through them on an album, you know, it can be a very disjointed experience sometimes if you don't sequence it correctly. And I think on this album, again, it's perfect, you know, and I think, you know, she's got tons of producers on here. I think she just like knew who she wanted to work with. She's like, I want to do these songs. This is who I want to do them with. And then she just made it happen. Like she had Tove Lo help her write a song on here. You know, it's like people haven't heard of Tove Lo. You know, she's got some interesting songs as well.
I love that song, Talkin' Body.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's it. And the other one she had, where the first one she had was talking about like overdosing in a tub or something like that, right?
Oh, boy. That I don't know.
Yeah, she had like a different, another song before that, and then Talkin' Body came out. Like those were her two big hits, I think, in the same year. But pretty successful artist. I think very popular on like the festival circuit. I think Tove Lo is a big one on the festival circuit because I think she likes her drugs, and people that go to festivals also like to do their drugs. So those two things go together pretty well. But it's just, I think it's like a murderer's row of people that she worked with on this. She's got some samples on here from some classic bands. You know, she's just, I feel like this was a passion project for her, and you can feel that through the music, and it just starts from the word go.
Yeah. And hot take, people think disco sucks. I think some of it sucks, but axiomatically, it's not a shitty genre. I mean,
Yeah.
that 4 on the floor is going to make you want to fucking move, man.
Yep.
So I appreciate how much goddamn good disco there is on this. I wouldn't mind if Dua Lipa were to usher in an age of neo disco.
That'd be cool.
She's the one to do it.
Yeah, I feel like there were a lot of points on this album too where I heard a lot of like Lady Gaga as well.
Yep.
You know, where it's like you could hear that influence, and that's, I mean, you want to talk about somebody else that is a titan of pop music, like Lady Gaga for a long time reigned supreme. You know, and I think with an album like this, Dua Lipa's maybe knocking on that door. You know, I think if her next album that she comes out with, whenever, maybe next year, year after that, whenever it is, you know, if she comes out with a banger like this album again, like we could talk about her being like the premier pop artist of this time period right now. I mean, this album was that good.
Yeah, and to that point, there are so many interesting people floating around right now. Dua Lipa for sure. I like the turn Miley Cyrus again has taken.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish, a little fucking weirdo. Like, there are so many talented, interesting people lurking around the periphery of mainstream pop. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens the next couple
Yeah,
years.
going to be a fun next few years. Definitely going to be a fun next few years. So,
and you'll hear it all on Out on That Line.
Yes, and expect some interviews. You know, people are like, the reason that we haven't done interviews yet is because we can't decide. Of all the artists that are constantly bugging us to be on the show, we just don't think it'd be fair at this point to pick just one. You know, there's so many in line that we just don't want to put that evil out there in the world by just picking one and disappointing the rest like it would.
I'm going to put this to you, Geoff. If you've had access to getting us with Dua Lipa this entire time and you're just telling me now, we've got problems.
Yeah, I mean, fiance of the pod, Marla, and I, we FaceTime with her probably a couple times a week.
This is very upsetting news to me, Geoff.
I'm sorry. I just, you know, she appreciates her privacy. I do as well. You know, so it's. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't bring it up. I'm sorry.
Why don't we just do the next song and forget about it then?
I suppose. The next song, Don't Start Now. What a comeback story. This is the one I was talking about where there was the video of her at a concert dancing to this song on stage, and it wasn't great. You know, the song is great, but the dancing was not. And then she came out, I think at the Grammys this year, and just brought the house down with her performance. And it just showed, that was where I kind of got the idea. I was like, she is not going to let anybody tell her that she's not capable of doing something. And this song has basically taken over the world. Like this song on TikTok, like I know you're not on TikTok, but this song, it was one of the songs that I would hear almost non-stop on TikTok. And it's like, it's a really excellent song. You know, like you were saying, it's not brainless. You know, it's subject matter that gets brought up all the time in pop music. A breakup, you know, a messy breakup. Somebody, you know, talking about how they're not going to miss you. So many people have done it before in so many forgettable ways that I can't even think of a good example right now. But this song specifically, just the way that the music is structured, the bass line in this one is so good that it just is an earworm. This song just like gets in there, and right through the end, you're like, this song is just really perfectly constructed. When you're thinking of pop music, like maybe ABBA did something as good as this, but like it is, I don't know how many other songs I've ever heard that were just so perfect as a pop song than this one.
I would argue off the top of my head, to do a little shameless plug for us, by the time this episode comes out, my latest episode of Singles will have come out. Mm-hmm. And I did it on a song called Boyfriend by this artist named Leah Kate. And it's the exact same narrative, which is you are with somebody in a toxic codependent relationship. You finally ditch their sorry ass and end up elevating yourself. You're with somebody new. Your life's going great. And that's when these people always come out of the woodwork for you, which is exactly what this song is about. And again, it's perfect fodder as a template for a pop song because it allows for A to B to C, beginning, middle, end. We were together. It didn't work out. You're back. I'm going to show you how well I'm doing. and it's going to end with that one last slap in the face reminder. You came back with your tail between your legs, and I'm not going to let you forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so perfectly constructed. Like you cannot find a pop song that is going to stick in your head faster than this one. And it is, I mean, I know that that's got a lot to do with the producers or whatever, but the lyrics still have to work. The vocals still have to work. And she just finds a way. I feel like, and I think she's got some pretty good vocal ability. I think she really kind of holds back a lot. Like she doesn't necessarily like Lady Gaga does, where she just like 100% like pedal to the floor. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sing my ass off every single song. I think Dua Lipa is a lot more meticulous about where she deploys that. And I don't even know if she's got pipes like Lady Gaga does. I'm not even sure. But what she does is everything feels like it's from vocals to bass line to the synth lines. Everything feels like it is exactly where it should be. And none of it, but to a point where it's so perfect that you would think it just is bland or a little bit, just like not exciting because it's so perfectly thought of and so perfectly put together. It still somehow retains that just excitement of listening to it. I don't know how she did it, but she brought those two worlds together, and it's just what an experience.
Yeah, and to quickly loop back to your point about her vocal abilities, part of me wants to go, it would be a poor, I guess, business decision if you are a knockdown, drag out blue chip vocalist to kind of be more conservative with your vocal approach. It just feels like you're leaving money on the table. But at the same time, we've seen it happen, and recently with Olivia Rodrigo. Mm-hmm. She releases driver's license. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah. For some reason, I was like, learner's permit? I don't... It'd be weird if she had her mom in the car throughout.
No,
that
was her first single. Driver's license was the second. Yeah.
But driver's license, I mean, there are moments on that where she really kind of cuts loose and shows that she's got something under the hood. And I was like, damn, okay, this girl can sing. Like, there's some breathy kind of, you go forever on the song.
Yeah.
But that's all forgiven because when she needs to, she kicks it into hyperdrive. It sounds good. The Deja Vu song, while I like it quite a bit, actually, it didn't have the same, she held back vocally. And I'm like, don't get in the habit of this, young lady. We like hearing from you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure on Dua Lipa. I don't know. I'd like to hear, I guess I'd have to like hear some other performances. Maybe she's got like an acoustic performance or something, because those are the times when you can really tell like how strong a vocalist someone is. So I'll have to look into that. I would imagine she's at least like above average, from just what I heard on this album. Just really, really knows what to do. Has a really good ear, I think, for what is going to sound correct in the song. And I feel like she gets the people involved that she knows is going to fulfill her vision. And that, I think, is one of the biggest compliments that you can give an artist, because not everybody's going to be a master with Pro Tools and all these, editing softwares and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just, there's a ton to learn. People dedicate their entire lives to just learning how to be good at that stuff. But if you have a vision and you can find the right people that know how to do that stuff to help you fulfill that, like, that to me is one of the most important things you can do as an artist, is not only knowing what you do, but surrounding yourself with the right people that accomplishes exactly what you're trying to do. And I think she did it here.
Yes. Yep, I agree.
Yes. And speaking of Tove Lo, the next song, Cool, was co-written with Tove Lo. This one, I was really close to putting it on my list, but something about it just like didn't quite rise to the level of the other ones that I chose. Still an excellent song. You can still hear that Tove Lo kind of sauce on it too.
Yeah, it's good. And again, we just kind of had to do a real Sophie's Choice this week. So
yeah,
sorry.
Didn't make the cut. Next one, Physical, is about basically exactly what you think it is, but it's got that very 80s feel to it.
Yeah.
Like the Olivia Newton-John song, Let's Get Physical. I have to think there's some sort of like kind of wink and a nod tribute to that, because
the video, certainly.
Yeah, like the leg warmers and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It's like you can absolutely tell like where she got the inspiration from was that era of pop music. That kind of like, I think it's like late 80s probably. But it's really just, again, a good song. Not one we put on the list, but we did put Levitating, the next song, on the list. And boy, oh boy, did this one. And I think she said that she wanted to do this one at like a festival or something, or maybe it was the other one I picked. But my goodness, what an absolute jam this song is. Jam on toast.
Oh yeah, jam on whole wheat. So did you hear any Boney M in this? Rah rah Rasputin.
I didn't hear that, but I bet if I listened to it again, I would pick it out.
I pretty immediately keyed in on this, just like this very slight, like little sound in the background that reminded me of it, and it's what helped me like lock into this song because I mean, she even admits, she's like, it's a totally simplistic song about just kind of like running into the right person at the right moment and all the stars align, and that feeling of levitating, obviously metaphor for like, okay, well, this is unprecedented. What do we do here? I guess we just hook up.
Yeah. And also she says, it's like taking you through a trip through the galaxy. It's alluding to planets. I don't know if this one's alluding to planets so much as it's alluding to party drugs and what happens to you when you do those sorts of things. And I'm certain, we're here, we're pro good time podcast here at Out on That Line. So whatever you want to do to enjoy yourself at a, in a dirty basement with some black lights, or maybe at a festival or something, that's perfectly fine. I feel like this song was absolutely tailor-made for like dance clubs. And the fact that I hope that clubs remember this song when they're able to be back open and like fully running again, because if this song doesn't get heavy rotation in dance clubs, then it's going to be a shame.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the song that you put on when your friend comes up to you and goes, "Hey, I left something for you under the toothpaste in the bathroom." 10 minutes later, it's all love and peace and euphoria, and you need something to dance to.
Yeah.
So,
and something to drink.
For people who are into that kind of thing. We're certainly not condoning it. We're just saying some of you do that.
No. Be safe, everybody out there and Out on That Line land. Be safe.
Yeah. Take a baby aspirin if you need to have a good time.
But yeah, this one I just can imagine. And, me, 33 years old, probably not going to go enjoy this one at a dance club or something. But 24 or 25-year-old Geoff would have loved a song like this in some place that had some flashing lights, maybe about 1 a.m, few too many pops. This would have been a great time.
Yeah, I see you with a styrofoam cup of Budweiser with your fist in the air to this song for sure.
Oh yeah.
I've walked beside that man on many a night, and I see him in this song.
He's dead and gone forever. I think I can't do it like I used to.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, the next song, Pretty Please, again, not one that we picked. Not saying that it's bad. She also rhymed little with window, which I thought was impressive in this one. Yeah, that was some vocal gymnastics that I did not think I was going to hear on this album, but I was like, you know what? She just did it. I think it's that British accent that makes that sort of thing possible.
Yeah, that's true. She gets a lot of leeway with stuff like Jaguar and aluminium.
Yeah.
You can sneak an extra syllable in there.
What is up with aluminium and how British people say it?
I do not know. You are adding pieces to the word. Don't say you're not.
Yeah, because I get Jaguar because those letters are all there. Sure. I get that. I understand. Schedule, I understand. All those letters are there. Aluminium, all those letters are not there.
Yeah, that's like nuclear. Like you're wrong. You transposed or you added. Like you can't be doing that.
Yeah, I want to know. If anybody from the UK listens to this podcast, I want you to write aluminium. Write that word out or type it, whatever you want to do, and tell me that when you pronounce it that way, where that sound comes from, because it's not there. It's just not there.
Get with the fucking program, you limeys. Anyway.
And the next song, really, really goes hand in hand with levitating. It's called Hallucinate. This one a little bit more on the nose, I think, about the subject matter. The beat drop into the chorus in this song, just tasty, just perfect. Just, I mean, you feel it. You like feel it coming. You know a beat drop is coming. And a lot of times anticipation kind of makes that not quite as good, as when you're not expecting it. Even with you expecting it, she just knocks it so far out of the park that it doesn't even matter that you knew it was coming.
Yeah, this was the one that kind of made me prick up my ears because so when I was younger, I remember going to a fucking music store and buying this random compilation of trance songs.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Ultimate Trance or something like that.
I remember that album.
Yeah, it was
they had commercials for it on TV.
Yeah, Ultra Trance, I think is what it was called,
Yeah.
actually. And I'm like, okay, well, pretty lady on the cover, and then the music is just like shit that people are listening to in the discotheque over in Latveria. It's like not anything anyone around here is listening to. So like the Europop, Britpop, in retrospect, that's the moment I became a hipster. But that like Europop sound from the early 2000s, I mean, you watch something like Bend It Like Beckham, or you even listen to like the Spice Girls in the 90s. It's got that very distinct flavor where you're listening to something that wasn't made in America.
Yeah.
And that is 100% recreated here to great effect.
Oh, yes.
I love this song.
Oh, yes. And she said this one she can't wait to perform it at a festival. And that tells me one thing, is there's nothing quite like an afternoon at a festival when somebody is playing some like banger pop music. I think that's some of the best times that you can have with live music. I haven't been to a festival in quite a long time, but the couple that I'd gone to in years past, like that was the best part. Like seeing rock bands is great, but when you can see like a really good dance artist, that it just hits a little different. And this song is going to pop when festivals start up again. And I hope festival organizers are realizing that Dua Lipa is going to be a hot ticket. If you get her on that bill, like that is going to be a hot ticket, because she could just do this album top to bottom and it would play like gangbusters at any festival I can think of.
She'd be a weird fit for ACL, but I mean, and you'd know better living in Austin, but just like as an outside observer watching the way the city has grown, that'd be a pretty big coming out party for her and Austin as a destination for like that kind of artist on the festival circuit. I
mean, Lizzo broke the record for most attended artist ever at ACL. So and Casey Musgraves had a phenomenal set there. And Robin, I mean, for those who want to know about like Europop and one of the best to ever do it, Robin is somebody that you should definitely listen to. And I think I hear a little bit of Robin in this one. Like it's that just droning dance pop, like that. It's just like you feel it, like your heart starts beating along with it. It's the kind of thing where it's just like so perfect, and you just feel like you're at one of those places, like you're at a festival, like the feeling that you would probably get being with 50,000 other people all just enjoying this music the same as you are. Like it probably would be indescribable, and hearing this song would be like the peak of that.
Yeah, and I just love the little, I don't know if like tonically what it is, if it's a half step or what, but it's like the song is rounding a corner and taking you down a new hallway every so often, just that little flip, which is so Europop. It's just like such a complete song and such an absolute fucking tour de force.
Yeah, just a banger, as we call it. And I really can't recommend. I think this one, Hallucinate, I think this is my favorite song on the album. This was the one where I was like, God damn, that's a hell of a song. I went back the first time I listened to it, I played it again. I was like, I know I got a couple more to listen to on this album, but I got to hear this one again, because it's just like, it hits you like a ton of bricks from start to finish. It's just so good.
Yeah, this one's the crown jewel. I agree.
Yeah, it is so good. The next song, Love Again. The thing I noticed about this one, first, the sample from that song, Your Woman, which is a great song. Mm-hmm. And it's the one that's like, no, it sounded more like the Star Wars theme, but you get what I'm saying. People can go check that song out. Great song. But I also noticed, did you look at the writing credits on this one?
I did not.
Irving Wallman, okay. Max Wartell, okay. I imagine they are part of the group. What is that group's name? Whitetown, from that 1997 song Your Woman. Clarence Coffey Jr., Cause, Chelsea Grimes, and Dua Lipa. And this year, this is out of left field, Bing Crosby.
Well, okay. Interesting. Because I'm thinking about it in the context of that Your Woman song, and I'm like, wait, did that song sample Bing Crosby? So it like got grandfathered in because Dua Lipa was sampling that song? I don't know. Because other than that, I'm like, what the fuck did Bing Crosby have to do with this song?
Yeah, I don't know. But I saw that. I was like, wait, like that can't be. But it is. It's right there. It's right there on the internet. So it's got to be true.
Well, goddamn. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing. That was the thing that I noticed about that. It was fucking crazy. And the next song, "Break My Heart," again, not one that necessarily made the cut for us, but again, still a great song, just not quite as good as "Good in Bed." And this was one that you had chosen.
Look,
to no surprise.
To the surprise of no one. Look, I wasn't going to bring it up until it was appropriate to bring it up, and I'll bring it up appropriately. I don't know if you guys know this, but Dua Lipa,
keep it together,
is super hot. So I just want to commend her on having it all, on being very attractive, on writing good music, and on seeming like a very genuine person who believes in social justice causes and the betterment of her community. Well done. That's all I'll say. Before we talk about the sex song.
that was very tactful. Very tactful.
This is a real greasy song, so I need to tread lightly here. I mean, to be serious, it's like this. It's not really a sexy song, but again, her lyricism and her approach is very sexy because it's this concept of like this extremely toxic, codependent, shitty relationship, but the sex is so explosively good. They're probably Scorpios from what I know about astrology. You know, they have great sex, but they drive each other crazy. And that's basically what this song is. And she even says something along the lines of like, I wish you knew me as well as you know my body. It's some spicy subject matter, Jeff.
That is also quite a line. And that sort of songwriting, and while this is the sexy song on the album, that sort of songwriting, I think, is what takes this from brainless pop to something with substance that you can sink your teeth into and not have to be like worried about what people think about that you listen to this album. Because, you know, a lot of people, and myself included, I will certainly have an opinion about people based on the music that they listen to. That is maybe a vice, some might say. I think that is a feature for me. I think that's one of my proudest features. But that line particularly is one that's like one of those clever turns of phrase that we always talk about on the pod that separates an okay songwriter with a very good one. And I think that's the sort of thing that makes her a very good one. And also, I think this is the most British that she's ever been in a song. Particularly chorus. I know it's really bad. Messing with my head. We drive each other mad. But baby, that's what makes us good in bed.
And you know, that to me, it works in the context of this song. It works being Dua Lipa. It leaves a little to be desired creatively for me. And it was a song that when I was listening to it, I'm like, I could easily see Amy Winehouse doing this. Again, you'd have to tweak, I think, some of the delivery. But you talk about it being like quintessentially British. Yeah. That was why I immediately went to like, I could hear Amy Winehouse putting her spin on this. But again, Dua Lipa makes up all her creativity points when she comes up with the line, I dedicate this verse to all that good pipe in the moonlight. I mean, I'm not the pig here. Dua Lipa is.
Yeah, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You know, You can only interpret things as they're presented to you. What are you supposed to do?
I'm just a human man looking for the truth.
Yeah, a real human bartender.
Jackie Daytona.
Oh yeah, just a really, really excellent song. Again, subject matter lays right out in the title, good and bad. And again, like I really am so impressed by the fact that it's elevated from could be just brainless, mindless pop music. But it really seems like she put some real thought into it, behind the concept, behind the music, because everything seems to really mesh together very well, musically. You're not going from one extreme to another. That was one of the kind of drawbacks of that Miley Cyrus album, was it didn't seem to have a lot of cohesiveness throughout the whole album. There were several very, very good songs on it, but it wasn't like this, where it wasn't a top to bottom, you felt like you were experiencing the same kind of thing all the way through. Like Miley Cyrus was like a bunch of episodes of a TV show. This album was like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like it had, beginning, middle, end, and you went through all these plot points and they were just all good turns. There was nothing disappointing about it. It was just very, very good all the way through.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right through the last song, Boys Will Be Boys. And this is where you were talking about she's very socially conscious and definitely skews way to the left like we do, and she's a big Bernie Sanders fan. So
Amen. Shout
out Bernie. It's a really excellent kind of commentary, and where you were mentioning, she says, you've never dealt with an alpha female like me. This is the kind of song where that comes true. She's not lamenting being a woman. She's not saying like, oh, poor me. She's simply laying out the facts that women have a different world to deal with than we do, and just being pissed off about it. A very, very punk rock sensibility I get from this song.
And yet it has kind of a like We Are the World child chorus anthemic quality to it, while being one of the most angry, evocative, pro-feminist, anti-rape songs I've ever heard. And again, not to shit all over Lake Street Dive, but I was very critical of that being a woman's song because it felt really fucking lazy.
Yeah.
For an idea that is 100% worth conveying, and along comes Dua Lipa to show you the fucking way to do it. Because we said there's a theme of nostalgia all throughout this album, right? So on this one, it's evocative of this idea that like MAGA, when that was around, it was nostalgia for when America was great, and we're going to make it great again. And there's this for people who think the world is changing a little too quickly for them and changing without them. They are nostalgic for a time when boys could be boys and the men were men and the women were objects. Yeah. And Dua Lipa is taking a defiant stance against that and saying the incremental change is not enough, and telling us to laugh it off is unconscionable. So you look at these lyrics. These are my favorite lyrics that I found in the song that I think absolutely like perfectly convey what's so powerful about this song and what Lake Street Dive could learn from her. So it's second nature to walk home before the sun goes down and put your keys between your knuckles when there's boys around. Isn't it funny how we laugh it off to hide our fear when there's nothing funny here? Sick intuition that they taught us so we won't freak out. We hide our figures, do anything to shut their mouths. We smile away to ease the tension so it don't go south, but there's nothing funny now. And in that, you get the exact antithesis of what I criticized Lake Street Dive for. Being a woman was literally just her going, well, being a woman is really hard. Why? Well, it's just hard. But why? Well, it's just hard. Yeah. And in this song, Dua Lipa paints a clear, horrifying, concise picture of what it is women go through. And I think you can, I'm not a woman, I can't say. I would assume it's axiomatic. I would assume you talk to any woman over a certain age and they've experienced this kind of thing to varying degrees.
Oh, yeah. So,
like, I know that a lot of people are like, well, every woman can't have a story like this. It's like, I don't know. I think every woman can relate to this in some way.
Yeah. And it's, if they don't have a story like this, it's probably because they didn't recognize when it was happening, and I think it's a terrible thing to think about, that it's so ubiquitous that every single person you talk to will probably have a story like this, and I don't know how you avoid it, and the crazy part is, like, as backwards as we are, there's still so many countries around the world that are even worse.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. Worldwide, this is an issue. Obviously, we're focused on the US, but I imagine this is an issue in the UK as well. I think it's just everywhere seems to still be a very patriarchal, skewed society, because all the politicians tend to be old men. All the people in power tend to be old men. All the CEOs tend to be men. And it's hard to change a culture when the people that are in control of what we see, what we hear, and all those things are the ones that are perpetrating these sorts of problems. We have this problem with Matt Gaetz right now, the do nothing congressman from Florida, right? He's got to be from Florida. He's terrible. He's got to be from Florida. Where he's just getting blown up right now. They're basically throwing him to the wolves because they've realized that, to save face, they can't possibly defend him. But he's a congressman, a son of an extremely rich senator. And the only reason he's in any sort of power is because of his connections, because of his money, because of who he knows. And he's a total asshole. Like, he's a total do nothing dipshit, but he's offended plenty of people. He's assaulted women. He's participated in acts with underage girls. It's like, it's terrible, the people that are in power, and that they keep doing these things. And it's like, it's not just individual situations anymore. And that's what she's trying to bring attention to. Yeah. She's like, this is a problem for every woman. This is how we get treated. We get taught that you have to dress modestly, that, you can't, instead of teaching boys how to act, no matter what somebody does to them or acts around them, instead of teaching them to understand that everybody is entitled to do the things that they want to do, barring like hurting other people, obviously, but everybody's entitled to live their life the way they want to. And instead of teaching boys to just deal with that and be okay with that and encourage that, they get taught that, they should be men, that they need to, that women are the inferior sex, that they need to be protected. And if they won't be protected by you, that's a problem with them. And so you need to tell them that's a problem, and I think that's something that, she, even a world famous pop star like Dua Lipa, that's something she has to deal with every single day. I'm sure she walks into meetings with her record label and gets told certain things because the people in charge at those places tend to also be old white men. And it's got to be, every aspect of your life is under scrutiny all the time. I can't imagine what that's like.
And I mean, look what I just did, right? Like, objectifying someone I don't even know. I just have an idea of who this is. You know what I mean? Just so that it's clear that I'm not trying to curry favor with any of these points. I think after last week's episode, yeah. I'm sure that was clear. You get no points for trying to stick up for women. And I'm sure women are listening to this going, don't help us. What are you doing? Yeah. But I, in all sincerity, I think if you're looking at this as an artistic and a social statement, it's a slam dunk on both accords. Dua Lipa is clearly very in touch with what's going on in this country, in the UK, and around the world. And I think, maybe we're giving her too much credit. Maybe we're not giving her enough credit. But the idea that maybe she could be on the vanguard of like real social change through her music is a very cool idea. Mm-hmm. I think she's going to keep becoming a bigger and bigger act. And if she stays true to herself and keeps espousing her beliefs through songs like this, I mean, she could affect a lot of change and help a lot of people. And I think that's really cool. And I think she's really talented. And that's all I'll say. Before I say something stupid or sexist.
I will say I am impressed. I know how you feel about Dua Lipa. I know how deep down how you feel about Dua Lipa. Yeah. And I'm proud of you for keeping it together on this podcast today.
I did my best, Geoff. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. That was an exercise in self-control, folks. And I don't know if you're going to appreciate this just hearing it. But if you know Alex personally, I'm sure you know what sort of things he wanted to say, but out of respect for the pod, he kept it to himself.
Yeah, that's your worst entertainment value, hearing me talk about how I wish Dua Lipa was a pirate captain and she took me captive and fell in love with me through the bars of my cell. Like, you don't need to hear about that. I'll keep that to myself. Yeah. She just blindfolds me and is like, you're going to taste test all of my food to make sure it's not poisoned. And I'm like, this is so intimate because I'm blindfolded. And she's like, shut up. No, it's not. But secretly, she feels it too.
Wow. On that note, I think we're just about out of time. So definitely go and find us on YouTube, folks. You search hashtag out on that line. You'll see Alex's video. So this will come out on Monday. So for us right now, it's coming out tomorrow morning, but will have already been out for a few days on Monday. So if you haven't watched it yet, search out on that line, hashtag out on that line on YouTube. You find us on Instagram at out on that line. Twitter at out on that line 1. Send us an email at out on that line. Maybe we'll have another contest coming down the pipe. If you check out our Instagram, if you saw Dante Rossi received his merch very quickly, I might add. So just know that these out on that line contests are lucrative and timely. So we have those two things going for us. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. And Alex, was there anything else that you wanted to add this week?
No, not that I can think of.
All right. Well, until next time.